Welcome to today's presentation, Delivering Compliance Systems with CloudBolt and Chef Automate. Let's go ahead and get started. Trevor, why don't you kick us off?
Awesome. Thank you for the awesome introduction, Annika. Nick and I are happy to be presenting to everybody here today. But let's get started with a little bit deeper introductions. So I'm Trevor Hess. I am a partner solutions architect at Chef. I primarily focus on a relationship with ISVs and with Microsoft and Azure. So my job is making all of our stuff work better together. So the other thing, I've been a cloud solutions architect in the past. I've been at Chef for about a year and a half now. I also co-host the Arrested DevOps podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor G. Hess. And if you'd like to get in touch with me at Chef, my Chef email is trevor@chef.io. Nick, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Trevor. So my name is Nick Adama. I'm a cloud engineer here at CloudBolt. And a major part of my role here at CloudBolt is working with awesome individuals here, engineers and developers. So I work with customers and end users to design, customize, and implement CloudBolt to this to our end users, to our clients, and actually to meet their specific organizational requirements.
Fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about how we can use CloudBolt and Chef together to create systems that are complex, but they stand up with their configuration already applied and their compliance constantly being scanned so that we know how safe and secure our complex environments are. Before we get to that, let's have a little bit of background on Chef as well as CloudBolt. So at Chef, our vision is that the most enduring and transformative companies use Chef to become fast, efficient, and innovative software-driven organizations. We started our lives as open source. We started in the world of configuration management, so applying configuration to our systems. We've moved into the world of compliance assessment and correction. So we've got our tool InSpec to scan systems to find issues. And we've got an application automation tool called Habitat, which we're not going to talk about much on this webinar. A lot of major companies are consumers of Chef. But for now, let's pass things over to Nick to tell us a little bit more about CloudBolt.
Thank you. So CloudBolt is a hybrid cloud management platform that actually centralizes the management of your current and existing and future technologies. So these technologies may actually be your on-prem resources hosted in vCenter or private clouds, just OpenStack, or it could also be your public cloud hosted with your public cloud providers, such as Amazon, Google, and Microsoft Azure. So what CloudBolt does is it actually takes out the complexities involved with managing your infrastructure in the public cloud and takes that and simplifies that into a user-friendly and highly intuitive interface. So this interface drives self-service, supports automation, and above all, saves cost.
That's fantastic. Nick, can you share us a little bit about how CloudBolt integrates with different cloud platforms?
Absolutely. So talking about multi-cloud freedom and flexibility. So this is a core feature of CloudBolt. So CloudBolt provides that ability to actually connect to your public cloud and your hosted private cloud and on-prem resources as well. So looking here on the right panel of your screen, you can actually see a number of the public cloud providers that CloudBolt can actually connect to. And an awesome feature of CloudBolt is actually able to host multiple cloud platforms on the CloudBolt interface. So you can actually be able to connect to a number of these cloud providers, all from one single interface. So it offers this flexibility and freedom.
Nick, that sounds super great. As I said, I work with Azure a lot, so I'm super excited to see Azure in that list. But how do you integrate with Chef?
Okay, good question. So going over to Chef. So CloudBolt has one of the core functionality as well, which is called is a configuration manager, configuration management. So specifically Chef configuration. So Chef configuration essentially connects CloudBolt to the Chef server. So how this does is actually before this is done, you need to have a Chef server. So your Chef server may either be hosted locally or hosted on Chef. So this connectivity is actually established once with CloudBolt, between CloudBolt and the Chef server. So once you have this connectivity established, you're able to import your cookbooks, your roles, and your recipes to CloudBolt from your Chef server. You're also able to, from the CloudBolt interface, to discover your VMs, which are managed by Chef, and also synchronize your nodes and your cookbooks, and also bootstrap your Chef agent to deploy to newly built VMs. So this is major features we have CloudBolt interface with Chef.
So you're able to stand up new systems with Chef already bootstrapped as part of that?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So that sounds like we're able to, CloudBolt is a tool that'll help us and our teams enable one-click deployments. Why is it important that we have the ability to do one-click deployments?
So with CloudBolt, this is an awesome feature, as it's with a blueprint. Blueprint actually CloudBolt. It's so we have a terminology we use in CloudBolt. So it's a feature of CloudBolt. Blueprint actually defines your build process and manages actions, and it tears down services or processes that you have in your service. So once the blueprint is defined, a user can any member of your team can actually deploy a server. So the blueprint consists of build processes and items. So you can deploy it from a single server to a multi-layer application. So you can actually deploy this from a blueprint by any member of your team with a click of a button. It's that easy.
That's
also,
great.
You can actually leverage your CloudBolt with any CloudBolt, just as previously mentioned, a cloud provider of your choice, be it Google, Amazon, Microsoft. You can actually leverage this on the CloudBolt interface.
You can also, what's really interesting is you can control the attributes that you have in your cookbooks, roles, and recipes through your CloudBolt deployment phase. So if you need to change any of those attributes as you're doing a deployment, you can control them straight from the CloudBolt interface. When you combine that ability with your existing continuous automation or your newly integrated continuous automation tools, it allows you to manage all your resources in your server, including compliance and configuration, as holistic objects. So if you have a team who is deploying these server groups to stand up different multi-tier applications, if you as the IT person who is writing cookbooks or writing configuration code need to update that code, it can update across all these systems because they're under your continuous automation scope. But those teams can still self-service, which is extraordinarily helpful. So let's talk for a minute about what stops us from having one-click deployments. So a lot of times we run into places where we still got a lot of manual processes that are, scripts running without an automation. These are great things that you can capture into Chef cookbooks and compliance policies, profiles. And even if there are some that you don't have a good fit for in a cookbook right away, CloudBolt allows you the capability to add individual steps as part of a deployment that happen outside of the Chef run as well, if that's something that you need. So it's really a tool that paired together, you can get just about anything automated relatively quickly. Nick, you want to touch on the central managing?
Absolutely. So with CloudBolt, you're actually able to manage your servers. So with your connecting to your cloud provider, so if you can have multiple cloud providers on CloudBolt, you can actually have with a central control of managing all your servers, all your applications, and all of this from the CloudBolt interface.
That's great. And then another thing that usually slows us down is we don't know about our existing fleet. And so it can be hard to know about a baseline. And so with Chef Compliance, you can apply a baseline across your systems. You can import your systems in the CloudBolt using the configuration management connector, and you can get a really quick vision of what the baseline state of your fleet is so that you can start your detect, correct, automate lifecycle and get your systems all to be consistent and managed from the same places, which leads us straight into the idea that we all try to the concept that we all try to work towards, where we try to decrease the time it takes to get an idea shipped. We want to reduce the amount of time it takes to get an idea from that first concept stage into customers' hands, because that's typically how we enable our businesses to be most successful. And so by combining CloudBolt and Chef, we get this capability to improve our deployment frequency, because we're not relying necessarily on the release team to publish that new server. A team that needs that server can request it, and we can be confident that it's going to come up with the configuration that we need alongside it. When we have everything managed under configuration management and in a central place, it's much easier to check and be aware of our change failure rate and reduce it, because we've got a more efficient way of tracking and addressing it. And as we add compliance to our systems and a means for knowing the state of the compliance of our systems, we can increase the amount, the cadence on which we audit our systems and continue to be sure that our systems are compliant, rather than the once a year check many places are still relying on today from an outside source. Now, with that, Nick, do you want to kick us off for a demo?
Absolutely. So let's jump right into the demo. Just 1 second. I'm going to share my screen right here. Jump right in here. Everyone see my screen here? Okay, so here we are in the CloudBolt interface. So first thing we want to talk about here on the CloudBolt, we have, as mentioned, we have the configuration manager, which we will be focusing on. So the configuration manager essentially allows CloudBolt to install software and manage configuration and manage configuration servers that they are built. So talking about the Chef client, the Chef configuration manager, like as mentioned, this integrates CloudBolt with the Chef server. So from the Chef server, we're able to download, we're able to get the application, the credentials needed for CloudBolt to connect to the server, to the Chef server. So clicking here on Edit, we see all the credentials needed for CloudBolt to connect to the Chef server. Okay, once this loads up, and once the connectivity between CloudBolt and the Chef server has been established, we're able to synchronize and discover the nodes on here that are hosted and managed by the Chef server. So I'm just going to go in here, the nodes. So all of these nodes you see right here have already been provisioned on the Chef server. They're actually managed by Chef, by the Chef server. So for some reason you have a new server provision, all we need to do here is sync the server, sync CloudBolt with the Chef server. 1 second, just gonna go back in here. Go here. Seem to have a network connectivity problem. I'm just gonna refresh this. Okay. Let's pick right back up. So going back to configuration managers, click on here, and that takes us to the configuration manager. Seems to have some internet connectivity problem here. Just going to switch right over. 1 second. Technology is not your best friend when you need it.
right? It wouldn't be a demo without an issue.
Okay.
One of the great things about the configuration setup for the manager is you can pass any flag to that bootstrap command that you would in Knife. So
okay,
if
so
you
I'm
need
just
to
going to go
set
right back to it.
proxy or anything.
Pardon the interruption there. So back to the configuration manager. We have the configuration manager here. So if you need to, let's see this. Just going to refresh this while this comes up here. Okay. Okay, 1 second. Still taking some time to come up. All right. Okay, 1 second. Just try to get this all connected. Okay, hopefully we have this connectivity problem behind us. So let's get this started. All right, so let's click right in here. Okay, so we're good to go. So once you have your connectivity between your CloudBolt and the Chef server established and connected, so then you are able to synchronize and first it auto discovers and synchronizes your existing servers, which are hosted on Chef, and synchronizes that with CloudBolt. Next, we can actually import your cookbooks. So these are existing cookbooks already on the Chef, from the Chef server. So we see here a list of cookbooks, and we can actually click on one of them and just import this. And right here, we have it here in CloudBolt. Same applies to roles.
That's great. And then as I was saying, in that configuration setup, we actually have the ability to pass the same flags we would to our Knife bootstrap command. So if you need to set up any kind of proxy information or define a different run list or set up Chef Vault, you can define that right from that CloudBolt configuration management provider. And so you can get just straight away as you provision systems.
Exactly. So, okay. So next step next step in the deployment will be to go into a blueprints. And on the blueprint, we have catalog. So catalog essentially allows an admin, a CloudBolt admin, to create blueprints and manage automated deployments and repeatable deployments. So here, you create a blueprint is created. We already have a pre-configured blueprint, but I'm just going to go into that and manage blueprints. So a blueprint essentially actually defines your build process. It manages the actions and also tears down processes in a service. So here we have several items in the blueprint. This is a server tier item. A server tier item actually specifies, can actually specify a server, either a server or multiple server to be deployed in your blueprints. An action actually specifies you can actually add actions to your deployment, to your server. This may be in the form of a remote script, a plugin, or a webhook. So what a webhook does actually just connects to an external API where you can, so it connects to an external API. We also have an email hook as well. The email hook also connects to an external API, and you're able to get notifications via email of the state of your deployment. So we have here a remote script to actually enable firewall. So again, this can actually be configured in Chef, but just for demo purposes, just want to show you how we can actually have this done in CloudBolt, where you can specify via a remote script firewall configurations to be set on the server as it's being deployed.
So this is super useful for us because if we've got a system that we're in the process of converting from manual processes into Chef cookbooks, if there's a step that we need to take as an individual action that we don't have ready to run idempotently yet, then we can add that as part of this run and still have our systems stand up the way we want them to. So in this case, we're using this to punch a hole in the firewall, which is super helpful so that we can show off our website as we all wrap this up.
That's correct. One thing to mention as well is the application. So here we can actually specify the cookbooks to run.
And so this is going to be what actually populates our run list on the Chef server for this node. So as a node spins up under this blueprint, when you look at it in the Chef server, if you were to do a knife node show on a new node here, you'll actually see the run list contains these two applications, which in this case can be either a cookbook or a roll. And you can select as many or as few as you like.
All right, so we already have this imported and added to as part of our applications here. So I'm just going to cancel this and go over here to overview.
So those applications that we're going to be running today, you saw that we had the CB CentOS scan. So that is going to be our CIS baseline profile, which will scan our system for compliance. Just to give us a baseline of the systems, it's not anything that's tuned specifically to our web host environment. It's just to give us a baseline understanding of what is configured or not on that system from the CIS standards. Yeah. The other thing we're setting up is our actual Apache web server, which is our HTTPD cookbook here to run our tiny little website.
All right, so let's go into overview and order this blueprint. So once we click on order right here, the order button, it actually specifies your pre-configured group here. So I already have all these parameters pre-configured, so I'm just going to select this group and auto populates this form, and I click submit. And so this deploys our blueprints. So I'm going to jump right into Chef Automate, and we can see how this cooks on there.
All right. So we, as is cooking show tradition, we have prepared some food for us before the show started so that we can show it to you while the rest of it cooks. So here is the Chef Automate view. For those of you who haven't seen it before, it is a great interface into the state of your systems. So you'll see in our environment right now, we've defined 6 nodes and we've got 9 cookbooks. So Nick, if you could scroll down and show us the Chef Node 1, let's actually take a look in here and see what we can see. So in here, we'll see we've got a bunch of information about our node. We can see its uptime. We can see when the last time the Chef client ran was. If its run was successful, we can see its IP address and its host name. If we scroll down further, we can see the actual resources that ran on that system from our configuration. These are the resources that are defined within our cookbooks that we added to our run list. We see here we've got the resources from our scanned cookbook, as well as the resources from our HTTPD cookbook to install our web server. We see that all of these ran successfully. And so we can also see that we successfully set up the Chef client to run on a 30-minute cadence, and that this has been running successfully every 30 minutes since we started running this server. So if we scroll back up, we can click on the Run List tab, and we can see that, yes, in fact, we do have those 2 cookbooks that we defined in our applications in CloudBolt as part of our run list here. We've got our CentOS scan cookbook and our HTTPD cookbook. If we hop over to attributes, we can see what sort of details the Chef client reports back to us using our OHI tool. So in here, you'll find all kinds of information about your system using our OHI profiler. So you'll find information like the host name, the Chef client version. You can find the memory profile. If we pop down, we can actually expand the packages drop down here and see what software is installed on our CentOS box. All of these resources are available to us when we write cookbooks, so we can use these to help further define our systems, as well as our multi-tier systems that need to know information about each other. So that's kind of the Chef view here. Let's pop over to our compliance tab. And the first thing you're going to notice is we've got a bunch of failures, and that's because I expected that. So we're going to start in the profile store. So if we hop on the left over to the profile store, you'll see, if you go to the 92 available, you'll see how many profiles we provide out of the box as part of Chef Automate. So these are, in general, these are the CIS profiles that are available through CIS, codified into InSpec profiles. There's also some baselines in here from the DevSec project, as well as a couple of the DISA STIG profiles so that you can apply these scans as baselines before you create wrapper profiles to meet more specific needs of your environment. So if we go back to the profile we have installed, you'll see we've got the profile for the CentOS 7 image. If we expand that, we can actually see what's in here and what it's doing. So there's 100-something some odd controls in this particular profile. If we expand that first one, we'll see that that first rule we have in here is to check if temp is mounted. You'll see we've got a description as well as the justification as to why CIS has created this particular control and why it's important. If we click the view code option here, we can actually see the raw code that is in that InSpec profile and get a sense of how we format our InSpec code. So you'll see the header is the actual name of the control from the CIS standard libraries. We've got a title, we've got a description, and as part of that description, we've got the justification. Below that, we can see our impact score. So in this case, we see that this is a 1.0 impact, meaning it is the highest impact. It's a critical failure if this doesn't pass. InSpec is super great in that it's written as a flavor of RSpec, and so it's pretty human readable. So we see that we expect that mount temp should be mounted. And so we can get from that if it is not mounted, our test will fail. So if we pop back over to the reporting view, we can go to the nodes view and we can see some of our failed nodes. As I pointed out, we're using this as a baseline. So we're just scanning our systems as we have today to see which of them, in this case, all of them, are not compliant with the CIS standards. Now, the CIS standards are very comprehensive, and if you applied all the rules, you'd probably have an unusable system, or that a system that will never see the light of the internet ever again. So if we expand the Chef Node 1 here, we can actually see some of the controls we failed. So we see right away that we failed our mount temp should be mounted. Now, what's really nice about InSpec is you can either write your own profiles to meet your security standards that you have inside your organization, or you can write wrapper profiles for other profiles. So let's say we wanted to use our CIS standards as our baseline for our detect, correct, automate lifecycle. Well, we could go in and we could either change the priority of this particular control from being a 1.0 to being an 0.1 to say that it's something we want to know about if it's not there, but it's not anything we want to necessarily worry about fixing right away. Or if it's a control we decide we don't care about at all, we can write that wrapper profile to skip the control so that we don't get reported on it at all. Now, this is super useful because as we have awareness of these issues, as we're detecting these issues on our systems and having this general baseline and then the specifics, we can figure out and prioritize which of these issues we want to correct using our infrastructure as code tools so that we can automate this so that the next time somebody deploys through CloudBolt, it comes up already compliant and configured correctly, and so that because it's running through Chef, because it's running on a cadence, any of those existing systems are automatically going to pick up that new configuration and be compliant and secure the way you expect them to. And you can be sure of it because the scan is going to run again as well, and you'll see those results back. So now, Nick, you want to show that our Chef Node 1 is actually, up and running, so that we've talked to all of this and kind of mentioned, that we probably made a real server, but let's make sure if we go back to the node view and we grab that IP address that it's actually.
Okay, so let's jump back into the CloudBolt interface for a few minutes, so a few seconds here. So from here, we can actually see that the CloudBolt deployment was a success. We can go in here and actually see the logs and the steps and process was taken. So in a more detailed view, you can actually go in here and view logs, and you can actually see all the processes that took place during the deployment. But so we are going to see, so this is a node 05, so we can go back into Chef Automate and actually search for, Note 5. Let's have this.
You probably need to refresh.
Yeah. Let's refresh this. And let's see here. Chef Note 5. Okay, there may have been. Okay, but apparently something may have been broken on here. But for just for testing purposes, so this is what we can actually go into one of the servers here and show you what we're supposed to. By going to node 1 and just take the IP. Let's go in here and we can actually see what should be. So this is the Apache server that's been deployed. So that's a previous deployment. And once we have the blueprint run, we run the blueprint on CloudBolt. We come in here and Chef automates, and all the actions and steps we actually had, the items we had specified in our blueprint, running the Chef client install, specifying the cookbooks, and as well as also enabling the firewall. Then we can also, once that is completed, we come into Chef Automates and we can actually see our nodes and go into and open up a web browser and we can actually see the Apache has been deployed. So.
Absolutely. Awesome. And so that helps us build our whole story around detect, correct, automate. Nick, if you want to stop sharing, I'll go ahead and advance us over to the slide and just talk again for a quick second about this idea of detect, correct, automate. So in this world where we have these complex and diverse systems that we need to manage, we need to have different teams and groups deploy and run and help with. It's great when we have the ability to detect the state of our systems and understand their ongoing compliance. We have a tool where we can correct those issues, so we can write remediation codes so that all of those systems can be updated and brought back into compliance. And tools together like Chef Automate and CloudBolt working together so that ongoing systems are maintained as well as new systems are coming up with the correct configuration and are being audited appropriately. All right. So with that, what questions can we answer for you? Annika, would you be so kind as to be our question presenter?
Yes, definitely. So let's start with, apologies. How can I tune my compliance profiles to my company's standards?
That's a fantastic question. So basically, the way you do that is you can either write your own compliance profile, which follows your company's standards guide. So if you've got that big Excel file where you're going through and you're checking to make sure that SSH is version 1.2, that these files are not that these files specific files don't exist, that that no user is using a password, everyone's using a key, all kinds of rules like that. You can write a profile to capture those rules and then use that, because you saw in the demo, you saw that there's the description. You can have all that information travel in those profiles and have an ongoing sense as you continuously scan those systems that they're staying compliant.
Excellent. And can I assign my base corporate cookbook to every server created through CloudBolt?
Absolutely. You can have this specified. Your base cookbook can actually be done from your CloudBolt. So once you go back in, on the CloudBolt interface, you can actually go in and specify from your blueprints. You can actually specify your cookbooks and add that to your blueprint, or you can actually install that. If you have pre-configured servers already discovered in CloudBolt, you can actually go into a server listing and check the particular server or servers that you need that base blueprint to be applied to. And once you have the checked, you can actually install your base cookbook to and have it run against those servers. So yes, you can actually do that.
Awesome. And is there a way to preset which cookbooks are applied to new builds automatically rather than allowing the user to choose them on the catalog form?
Absolutely. So that can be done from your blueprints. That's earlier showed in the demo. You can have your blueprint configured and specify the applications to run automatically against those nodes. So having the blueprint set up, you can actually run and just have a click. And the blueprint, like was described earlier, can be configured by your admin. So all it takes is just any member of your team to go in, choose the particular blueprint, and just submit, and have it run, and you have your nodes configured.
Great. And can CloudBolt be connected to multiple different Chef servers of different versions?
Yes, you can. So CloudBolt, from your configuration manager, you can actually specify add your different chef configuration. So all it takes, you can have as many configuration items configured. So once you preset your configuration, your chef configuration, you can actually set your add in your credentials, and you can set in the particular chef version. So and have it saved and add it to your environment, to your specific environment.
Great. Can CloudBolt be integrated with other configuration tools or even Jenkins to run Chef from there?
Yes, we can. CloudBolt has the capabilities to integrate with other configuration management tools out there, but we only focused on Chef for this webinar. But yes, CloudBolt can actually has the ability to integrate with other configuration tools out there.
And does it support multiple Chef servers for load balancing?
Yes, CloudBolt has a feature to support multiple Chef servers, and in your blueprint you can actually specify your load balancer. We have a number of load balancing options to specify in the items in your blueprints. So defining your blueprint and specifying and having your multi-tier applications configured, you can actually specify your load balancer of choice and have that integrated into your blueprints and deployed against your particular environments, be it your private cloud or public cloud provider.
Great. And can you upload your own custom compliance? Are there templates for the same?
Trevor, can you answer that?
Absolutely. So as I was saying before, you can write your own compliance profiles. And so anything you want to define, if you go to inspec.io, you can see the full gamut of resources that you can test as part of InSpec, which are entirely comprehensive. We're working on more of the DISA STIG profiles. We've got a team spun up now who's working on actually cranking out more profiles ourselves. But you can represent just about any compliance rules you've got on a system or the clouds with InSpec and write those profiles yourself. If you're looking for some temp guide on how to get started writing your templates, I would look in your Chef Automate server and pull out and download one of the existing compliance profiles, or look on Supermarket for one of the existing profiles and take a look at how they're written. And there's also some guides on inspec.io as well.
Awesome. And are there plans to integrate some chef status into the CloudBolt dashboard?
Yes, there is actually. CloudBolt has a very extensible UI, and we have a few customers that have done some really interesting stuff on creating custom widgets for our dashboard, to extend that dashboard to include various chef status, well, not only chef, but other tools statuses on that dashboard. So I would say it's certainly open for customers to extend the UI any way they want. If they want to include any kind of chef information that's pertinent to them, they can add to that dashboard. They can also add it as a server extension, a server tab extension as well. So when I go to view a server that's managed by Chef, that there could be an additional tab there that shows chef status for that server.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Rick, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, sorry about that. I've been sitting here lurking the whole time. My name is Rick Kilcoyne. I'm the VP of Solutions Architecture here at CloudBolt. Been with the company for about 5.5 years, formerly with Opsware. Yeah, so I work at the, I see a few familiar names out there. Any questions, put them up there. I'm happy to help.
Great. And is there a test kitchen driver in the works for CloudBolt?
Yes. There is. I laugh because of the, yeah, there's certainly one in the works.
Awesome. Well, I think unless there are any last questions, we'll wrap things up. I'll give it another minute to see if we have some more questions come through. All right. Well, thank you, Aaron and Trevor. It looks like we're almost out of time. We'd like to thank our audience for your live participation today. And if you've submitted questions that we didn't have time to answer, we will follow up with you via email. As a reminder, a copy of today's slide deck and additional materials are available in the resource list widget at the bottom of your screen. We hope you found the information valuable, and if you liked what you saw, we encourage you to share the presentation with your teammates or professional networks. The on-demand version should be available by tomorrow, and we'll email you as soon as it's ready. Thank you again for your time, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.